Let's kick it off. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Mayuri, and I am the event director with the CERIC Initiative. And thank you for joining us today for the webinar, How to Balance Work Life in the Digital Age, Tech Tools for Women Who Do It All. We are thrilled to have our participants joining us from all over the world for this important conversation. So before we dive in, I'd like to give you a moment to introduce the CERIC Initiative. We are galvanizing a global community of change makers to advocate for greater Asian American inclusion and advance positive social impact in U.S. and Asia relations through dialogue, storytelling, and our convening power. We are also dedicated to empowering women through education, advocacy, and innovation. Our programs are designed to support women at various stages of their careers and life, promoting leadership, economic independence, and technological advancement. We are committed to creating spaces where women can learn, grow, and inspire each other. We have some upcoming events. Of course, next week we'll have our Women's Gala on May 14th, which we still do have some tickets available for. And on May 17th, we will have another webinar with Jenny Ming of Gap and Old Navy. She will be a great speaker talking about how women get on board. So please join us for that as well. And stay tuned for all of our events coming up. But right now, I'd like to, of course, move on and bring you to the programming of today, which we are honored to have two remarkable leaders with us. First, of course, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Anla Cheng, who is the CEO of the CERIC Initiative. She is a passionate advocate for gender equality and has been instrumental in steering our initiatives in CERIC towards impactful outcomes. Her dedication to advancing women's rights and economic participation is truly inspiring. Please, everyone, welcome Anla, who will then introduce Sheila. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Michelle, and welcome to all to our webinar with Sheila Marcelo, who is the CEO of Ohai.com. I want to make a quick introduction to, about Sheila, who is really a stellar role model for us all. She currently is the CEO of Ohai.com and former CEO of Care.com, and she was indeed the first Asian American, and I shouldn't say was because she is the first Asian American woman in history to ring the bell at New York Stock Exchange when she listed Care.com. She is not only a great role model, as I said, for all our women, but her awards are plenty, and it's a long list. But just to start off with, she is one of the top 40 entrepreneurs under 40 years of age by the Boston Business Journal in 2009, one of the 10 most powerful women entrepreneurs by Fortune magazine in 2009, and one of the 10 most powerful women in Boston tech by the Boston Globe. And the list is about 3 times longer, so I'm not going to take much time, but really to invite Sheila to have this wonderful dialogue, because so frequently I get asked, how do we struggle? How do we straddle both work and personal life? How do we balance it all, especially now in the digital age? So Sheila, welcome. I'm delighted. You look fantastic today, and I know you're on your way to ringing the bell or something like that again to NASDAQ. So glad that you made the time to be with us today. So one of the first things that I want to say is, I feel so honored to meet you because I've heard so much about you. And you were yes, thank you. And you're the first Asian woman in history to ring the bell. That's a huge milestone and something to be so proud of. And we are so proud of you. But your success, as I read so much about you, it did not come easy. You were indeed a recipient of many awards, as I mentioned, and you have tons of accolades. But you worked in a coconut farm in the Philippines, and you were becoming one of the handful of women CEOs leading a public traded company. So from the Philippines and the coconut farm to your time when you became CEO of so many of the companies, tell us, what do you attribute your success to?
Sure, Anla. Thank you so much to CERIC Initiative and to you for inviting me to this. Such an honor. So born and raised in the Philippines, and the story really is that my parents owned a part of their businesses. One of them was owning coconut farms. So I grew up born and raised in Manila, but they're originally from the province of Candelaria, Quezon, a little town in the Philippines, and growing, of course, but where I learned a lot of your question around success. It really, so grew up there, went to the US between the ages of 6 and 9. And then a very pivotal year in my life was in Candelaria, Quezon, when I was in 5th grade. And my parents matriculated me into a local Catholic school to relearn the language. And I remember cleaning floors with the coconut,
Mm-hmm.
sort of coconut country, but it's also one of the husks to clean. And learning with the kids, and this was the year before I went to boarding school, to an American boarding school. But that really was such a memorable moment and a gift that my parents gave me in my life, because it gave me insight into growing up with so many different kids from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
It also gave me a sense of my heritage, even though I had already migrated to the US to kind of come back and relearn the language. Um, it also gave me a sense of the importance that growth without equality and inclusion, Anla, is not really growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to
And
have
you,
seen it as a child was
right.
really created an imprint for me of what was really what I think God gave me a gift to put in my heart at an early age of how important it was to really focus on serving and helping people.
Mm-hmm. And also, you mentioned in one of your other interviews that you were surrounded by really competent women, and women had equal
Yes, absolutely.
responsibilities as men. So it was very natural, and it didn't
Yes.
occur to you that women should be put in a subservient role.
Yeah, thanks for teeing that up. And the
Mm,
Philippines is also one of the countries with the narrowest gender gap in the World Economic Forum report. And so growing up in a country where you saw female CEOs, female government officials, one of the first presidents in the world, Corazon Aquino. So it was a country that really celebrated the power of women. It was a matriarchal culture, but it was also a culture where I grew up where my father was a nurturing dad, but in terms of equality, I grew up with four brothers and a sister. I was the fifth of six kids. And my dad treated us with such equality that even though I was younger, he taught me math early, along with my
mm,
older brothers, and never held me back. Both my parents, one, look at my mom as a role model, was this
mm,
like, high-powered
mm,
entrepreneur along with my dad, but my dad welcoming the girls in our family to have equal treatment around learning math early, reading early, pushing us to excel in school, following our dreams of
right.
what we wanted to do. So back to your question of what drives success, I think it's that support and love and role modeling that happened at a young age for me that I feel very fortunate and grateful
Sure.
for.
Sure, that's a very fortunate environment and circumstances that both you and I had. Also, similar to what you did when you were 7 years old, cleaning the floors with coconut shavings, I grew up with green tea leaves that we used to clean the floor with.
There
So
you go.
slightly different, but similar. And also, I had a father who also supported me and said, "You can become the president." So it makes a huge difference when you have that kind of backing. Um, However, your father got a heart attack when you were 29 and you were at Harvard. And so even though you make everything look so easy, just looking at your background, I'm saying, gee, she just happened to be there when she met this person, helped her go IPO. We know how much you struggled. So tell us a little bit about that. At the age of 29, you were already experiencing the sandwich generation because by then you had your second child. And how difficult was that?
Yeah, so all of that juggle was really difficult. Not that I intended. So my parents, being Asian Americans or Asian at the time, really immigrating here, they had designated professions online. They didn't want us to be entrepreneurs, even though they were entrepreneurs. There was the doctor, the dentist, the engineer, you just go down accountant. I
Right.
happened to be the fifth to be the lawyer.
Mhm.
But I came to college in Mount Holyoke College, and then my husband was at Yale University. We met at a Filipino American party called FIND, Filipino
Mhm.
Intercollegiate Networking Dialogue, that is still going on to this day. And I joke with him, it was like to find a date, but it was really bringing Filipino Americans across the Northeast together.
Wonderful.
We met there, but then I got pregnant in college.
Mm.
We both did, and we got married at a very young age between my sophomore and junior year. So went through college and undergrad, having a child, and then took 2 years off before grad school. I got into Harvard Law School, and then worked with kids also, which was really difficult, or with a child at the time. And then we matriculated both of us into Harvard. I got into Harvard Law. I started my first year. And then we both started Harvard Business School together. And then we got pregnant again. So I definitely on campus don't drink the water because we seem to always have children. So we ended up having our second, we
Yeah.
got pregnant with our second child. And then to your story, because Adam, our infant, and I was going to start work at an internet company, I called my parents from the Philippines to say, could they come help take care of the little baby, our Adam. And then my father came to visit, was carrying Adam up the stairs when I was working at You Promise at a startup, and he fell backwards and had a heart attack. And so to your question, I was sandwiched, and that is sandwiched between childcare and
Mm-hmm.
senior care at the age of 29.
Mm-hmm.
So that I always said I was on a race car getting pregnant at a young age, but I never envisioned that I would be on a race car to like juggle with childcare and senior care at such a young age,
Yeah.
which really the story and inspiration of care.com.
Right. Right.
Because I was having such difficulty, both my husband and I, finding care. We were both working, two small kids at home, a father that was ill. And here I was graduating with a JD MBA from Harvard. I was starting to get into technology because at the time I taught at HBS and taught courses around the information age business. I know I'm dating myself. And so I was in the internet. And I thought, well, wait, why couldn't the internet solve
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this need that I have that was very proximate to my own pain points? And yet, as I peeled the onion, I wasn't alone. Millions and millions of families struggled through this, especially women, to try and just fulfill their dreams and follow their aspirations. It's very difficult when you're juggling. And to your
Mm-hmm.
point of this webinar is are all around work-life balance. And so for me, it was really my calling. I was like, I
Right.
have the education, I have the experience, I have the passion, I have the personal experience, thus starting care.com.
Mm-hmm. So a wonderful journey, and it seemed like a natural transition. But I also want to add the fact that you not only were you a sandwich generation victim, maybe I should not use the word victim, but at the same time you were still being highly philanthropic. And at Harvard, you were giving free time, consulting, uh, I was wondering if I read it wrong, but 30 hours a week on top of what you just told us to really help, what was it called? The Spangler Center, and you were consulting them. And then You Promise, helping to service, helping families to save money to go to college. So I think philanthropy was always in your heart, and helping the elderly, helping mothers, helping children, that was a wonderful way to transition from doing something philanthropic to becoming a startup entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur, a for-profit, a CEO. So where was that transition? You explained a little bit, but in a way you were, if I may be crude, you created lemonade out of lemon. A very difficult situation. You turned it into a really successful enterprise.
Thank you. So I think it really, I think, was both my parents have always been philanthropic, helping provide scholarships to young kids that, had economic challenges in our home province and putting them through school. We always grew up with that. My grandparents were also very philanthropic. My family's been in education for a very long time in the Philippines. There's actually one of the first public schools in the Philippines is my great grandfather. And he's always been, again, whole family, very philanthropic and in public service. And so I think growing up with that, Anla, was also very inspirational for me. So when I went to Harvard, the Harvard Business School needed, people to actually volunteer and help with the Spangler Center, to actually build a building. And that was just a great experience. But it also allowed me to get to know the faculty and the kids and alumni. It was a great experience. But back to your question, I think for me, it's really is about social impact. And when I think about philanthropy, philanthropy is often equated to nonprofit,
Hmm.
but I actually think the new way to also think about philanthropy is that it can also be used for-profit ventures that create a double bottom line on social impact.
Hmm.
That's really care.com. Care.com was
Hmm.
even before the B Corp movement.
Hmm.
Right? So companies that really pursue creating social impact in the world. So I like to describe myself as a social impact entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Part of the reason that triggered me to move in that direction is nonprofits, and I very much respect many nonprofits. It's just very hard to constantly be raising money. And so I saw it with my business background, that if we created profitable high growth companies, we can actually use the profits to help create change and social impact in the world. And that was really Care.com's business model. I know we were one of the first. I remember scaling this, and I had a very good friend who worked at one of the top investment banks and was saying to me, is this a big enough opportunity for you? Because you obviously, you taught at HBS, you have your JD MBA, you're very successful. Are you sure you want to start a babysitting company? But I saw it bigger than that. I saw it not only in helping women get to work. And my dear friend Ai-jen Poo often uses the quote that care is the work that makes all work possible.
Mm.
And I wasn't one of the first that uses the argument that investing in women drives the economy. That's certainly Secretary Clinton. So if we think about these other women who have been carrying the torch, I felt like in the care space, I could carry that torch to be helpful around how do we, help women get to work, because one of the biggest barriers is really care to free up time.
Right.
Just as much as, we invest millions and billions of dollars on roads and infrastructure to help
It's
people get
true.
to work.
It's true. I can't agree with you more.
But
I
why
wish I knew care.com when I was raising my kids, because I really think that's really the stumbling block to a lot of women who want to work, who are capable and have great expertise, but they don't have the right childcare, or
Right.
they don't have parents there right next door. So that's a big issue. So in 2014, you went IPO. You became the world's largest online marketplace to find childcare, pet care, and senior care. The network extended over 35 million members in over 20 countries, and you have become one of the only 22 women to ever found and lead a company with an IPO. What an achievement. So congratulations on that. And in that year, you were bestowed for the highest honor from the Philippines, the Filipino Heritage Award from President Benigno Aquino III. So really a wonderful achievement. And now you are not satisfied. You're not going to sit still, retire, paint your nails, and eat bonbon. You have gone on to launch the bigger opportunity that you are focusing on, which is Ohai.ai. This is to alleviate the mental load of the chief household officers. I like that title. Tell us about it. You're trying to incorporate AI, which is, of course, take this tech phenomenon has taken on the world in many, many corporations. So you're right up there on front row leading the way. So tell us all about your new company.
Thanks, Anla. So I often describe to people, they're like, I can't believe you're doing it again. I wasn't looking to start an AI company. In fact, we sold Care.com to IAC. It was public,
Yeah.
right, for about 6.5 years. And then we actually sold it to IAC at the top of the pandemic, February 2020. My intent was to travel the world with my husband, but because of the pandemic, we were quarantined.
Ah,
And so I spent that time learning about new technologies like blockchain and AI. And so there's a group of us that got together. We were pursuing an ed tech platform, and we were starting to teach in Philippines and India how to use generative AI to complete tasks. So February last year, the team presented me the next course that we were rolling out in 20 universities across Philippines and India. And then I paused and I said, oh my gosh, can this technology be used to complete tasks for families? Of course, the team looked at me and they were like, wow, we're going from developers to families. And I said, it's a problem that I've known, Anla. I've seen it, and the
yeah.
technology was never ready for many years. At Care.com, we tried to launch services like Ohai, but it wasn't ready.
Right.
So technology is here and now. But the other calling for me, and I've shared this with my co-founders, and everything, is that, I realized that I had unfinished business. You know, helping women and families, it's still a real problem, right? When we see the statistics, female entrepreneurship, like an example that you quoted, I'm one of 22, and it was just covered by a Forbes article that Gemma covered this story, where she shared that 6,000 companies have gone public. And so if you look at, it's, I think, up to 30 now, women that have taken a company public. That's like 0.49% over the last 10 years. And by the way, we've been taking companies public in this country since the 1600s.
Mm,
So there's clearly a problem, right?
sure.
That and this isn't a pipeline problem. There are
Mhm.
binders of women, as we
Mhm.
say, many. And I go to many events, you go to many events, and you're hosting one
Mhm.
next week to celebrate women. And
Mhm.
there's so many women, and there are many qualified women.
Mhm.
So I think that continues to be a challenge. And then when I think about women and families, the average number of hours that a woman spends per day, 4.5 hours per day,
Mhm.
on administrative things to kind of help the family, and it's unpaid labor.
Right.
Unpaid. So if we work 8 hours a day, and if you calculate adding that 4.5, it's like a third of our workday
Yeah.
is actually unpaid. And forget that during the 8 hours, we're already below in terms of pay gap, right? So, and then, we quickly calculated that if we just saved with AI, like our company, Ohai.ai, 1 hour a day of a woman's time, it's about $1 trillion of GDP. That's like 2 countries, Anla. So you'll hear the same passion that I have of the economic language that I similarly use at care.com,
Mhm.
that it continues to be that care is the work that makes work possible.
Yeah.
Ohai.ai is helping chief household officers be more effective with their time
Mhm.
so that they can be more caring for their family. Not that they're not already caring, but frees up the cognitive load so that they can care for themselves, so that they
Right.
become better
Sure.
for themselves, so that they can be better moms,
Have more
better
time to do
wives, better
yoga.
partners,
Have more
right?
time to, yeah,
Mental health.
self-care. Hmm.
Mental health. And we know this day and age, mental health. And so it's interesting, proximate again. After selling care.com, I went on my own mental health journey. You mentioned all these things that I did, 30 hours per week at Harvard, helping volunteer. I didn't sleep very much on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm catching up now that I've got to focus on my own health, my own mental health. And so Ohai is as much for me, again, like care.com is, was as much for me at just this stage in my life, realizing I need help. I need to unload this massive to-do list, still taking care of my family, my husband, our dog, everything that happens in my life while still working full time.
So
Plus,
can you tell us how Ohai.ai
sure,
works? How have
yeah,
you been able to gain that extra
yeah.
hour, maybe more than an hour back?
Yeah, more than an hour back.
Yes, right.
So we're building, it's Ohai.ai is actually a modern virtual assistant, right? That is AI plus what I call HI, human interface or human assistance. So
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
combination. A
Right.
majority of the tasks that are completed by the virtual assistant, and it's text-based, Anla.
Mm.
Like I have my own personal assistant, Anne, and you can text oh hi, and the assistant's name is O. The reason
Hmm.
we come up with the name I get often asked is it's a greeting. You say, oh hi there every morning. O
Right,
says,
right.
hi there, right? And then O is the assistant. I call her a she, my O. You can call a he, they, it's up to you. But the virtual assistant completes tasks. You connect your calendar. She helps with scheduling, managing conflicts, sending you reminders. We have some new features coming out where couples will be able to actually go on O at the same time and
Oh,
read and kind
yeah.
of voice and discuss the kinds of things that they're planning for the day. And the
Mhm.
assistant just takes care of it with the
Mhm.
AI. We can read email and summarize. So, school, especially many schools sends like 11-page newsletters. We then summarize the important information, put it on the
Really?
calendar. Yeah.
Wow.
Just so many powerful things that AI can do. What I
Mhm.
always say is, many men and women, but mostly men are solving productivity at work. I'm very focused on, with our team, trying to solve productivity in the home that unlocks economic growth.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because
That's terrific.
if we unlock this for
Mhm.
women, especially
Sure.
women, a majority of chief household officers are still 85%, 90% women.
Sure, sure.
Then
Will Ohai.ai help us plan vacation trips?
it's coming.
Okay. Because
Exactly.
that takes a lot of time, booking hotels, booking restaurants.
That's right. Family travel,
Mm.
booking doctor's appointments, haircuts,
Mhm.
sending
Mhm.
all the reminders, vets. reminding medicine, taking your medicine on a regular basis. You can imagine the overlap for me. Childcare, senior care, all of it. It's very similar to care.com, except that the total addressable market is even larger. It's not just people looking for care. It's everyone that needs to manage
Sure.
everyday lives.
That's all of us.
That's
all
everything.
of us, even teenagers who have a hectic
Oh
weekend.
my gosh, it's so funny. We haven't actually been marketing to teenagers and adults, but they're signing up on their own. They're finding us. I call
That's
them
great.
AI forward people who are like so early adopters, and they're finding Ohai.ai, and we're also assisting them. So it's really a mass
That is
market
great.
serving everybody.
Wonderful. And so I've been wondering, because the title of our webinar today is How Do Women Survive in This Digital Age? How can we straddle both work and family life? And I did a little bit of research, and they said that Amazon's Alexa sometimes very useful for the elderly when they're very lonely, because loneliness is something that the elderly struggle with. Is that something that maybe you'll incorporate into Ohai.ai as well?
I think it's definitely coming. Two important things for Ohai, and that's why the name is very Zen if you think about it. An O is embracing the idea of support. You think about not only time saved that you and I have been discussing, but it's also a sense of that you're not alone doing all this, that you're assisted and supported, right? And we facilitate the assistance and support. Support is from the care village. I used to call it at care.com. So we coordinate with all the caregivers, whether they're au pairs, nannies, a partner, a spouse, a grandmother, an aunt, to surround you and coordinate with your care village, whether you're taking care of an elderly person, whether you're caring for a pet, whether you're caring for children. It's very similar in the mission that care.com had, which is how do we empower the care village? How do we empower the chief household officer to manage the care village, right?
So are we assigned a virtual assistant who will take care of you? Really? I see.
Well, every person, every individual will have their own O.
I see. That's great. I'm going to look into it. Ohai.ai. Is it ohai.ai.com or just ohai.ai?
Ohai.ai.
AI, very easy, very user friendly. Well, thank you for that. And I'm moving along. I want to also highlight, because it's so important. It's API Heritage Month, and you are the only woman on their board now. And TAF, the Asian American Foundation, which in the last 3 years has made huge strides, raised a lot of funds, and are helping many grassroots organizations. So from where you sit as a board trustee at TAF, can you let us know what is the situation? What is, after this whole terrible situation that we saw during COVID, the number of verbal and physical abuses? Has that petered out a little bit, or has it been overshadowed by the situation in Ukraine and Gaza? Where do we stand in this effort to help AAPI hate, to fight AAPI hate?
Anla, as you know, part of our founding, and I was part of the founding board, we came together in the height of the pandemic, the labeling of COVID as the China virus really increased hate across the country. And many of us felt that fear. It was very proximate. We would walk, whether it's safe neighborhoods or even neighborhoods in New York City or the subways, we all felt unsafe. And that safety concerns continues, Anla. You know, the status index just came out, and it basically, you know, the results are it's just still a third of Asian Americans feel unsafe. And also a third of Asian Americans feel that they've been violated in some way, you know, discriminated against. And so the mission of TAF is really focused on not just a sense of belonging for our community, because prior to us, there really wasn't an institution that brought Asian Americans together to fight for a sense of belonging, that we can be seen. And then at the same time, also ensure that there were resources that supported the community locally around fighting discrimination, slander, and violence for the community. So we came together. We've raised $1.8 billion from corporate partnerships, foundations, our own fundraising ourselves. And then we also raised with a 5-year pledge of the board members pledging $250 million of our own money to run the organization, scale the organization. So every dollar that is contributed to Asian American causes and local communities, we don't charge a fee because we want that money to go directly to the programs. And the reason we did this was because we learned that I think less than 1% of foundation dollars actually go to the
Right.
Asian American community,
Right.
though we make up 12% of the population, you know, and then even seven, I think it's like 8% population. But what's interesting in corporate America, we make up 12% of the employee base, but only 1% is represented in the senior suite. So we
Mm-hmm.
continue to have problems. We also really advocate for representation, whether it's in sports,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in media, whether it's in corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
So we just feel this is an important role. We're actually going to be launching a campaign that we'll be announcing soon that Wieden+Kennedy designed. I personally was very involved in that. I
Mm-hmm.
work with Joe Tsai closely on narrative change for the community. And it's going to be called the Plus campaign. I think,
Okay.
and I think you saw it at the gala. We
Mm-hmm.
unveiled it is Asian, and you remember the dash American.
Mm-hmm.
Wieden+Kennedy came up with this brilliant concept of celebrating the more is better, right? That it's the strength and it's a plus sign instead of this minus sign. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
Asian American, it's plus.
Right.
We replace that Asian to say you could be Korean American, you could
Mm-hmm.
be Filipino American, you could be mixed Korean
Mm-hmm.
Filipino American,
Mm-hmm.
be Chinese American. But the idea is that as Americans, I actually said to Wieden+Kennedy, this program is even larger than
Mm-hmm.
the Asian American community or Pacific Islanders. It is
Yeah,
for all Americans, that we are all more. We are truly a melting pot, and we should celebrate all of
I
us
agree.
more.
I'm
And
all about celebration. Anytime. Give me
yeah,
an excuse.
so we'll be launching that campaign across the country. We're super excited about it.
Mm,
I'm personally involved in fact, I go there before the New York Stock Exchange to work with the Wieden+Kennedy team on this launch. So just exciting to be really
right.
the community wherever we can.
Right. And I think another thing that that TAF is involved in is trying to revive the Chinatown nationwide. And
Yeah.
I think that's a great initiative, especially because we've heard that there's 20 to 30,000 Asians and Chinese that
Mm,
cross the Darien Gap, and they're immigrants now. And particularly in Chinatown, you're seeing amongst women a lot of prostitutes who
yeah.
can find jobs. So that's wonderful. All the things that TAF does is wonderful. You make our whole community strong and a great role model for all of us. So thank you for all that you do. So we have about 5 minutes left, and there are, I think, two or three questions. The first one's from Jessica Fajardo. Basically, she says it's not a question, but a big applause for being a Mount Holyoke alumni. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is from NYY, who says, "Thank you, Sheila. It's truly an honor to learn from your insights and experience. As a student from Wellesley College, part of the Seven Sisters, I'm currently reflecting on my own journey and contemplating whether to pursue a more stable career or dive into my entrepreneurial aspirations. And looking back on your college days, is there anything you wish you could have improved about your time in college?"
Oh, my time in college, take as many courses that really piques your curiosity. And I wish I did that more. I was very focused on graduating with an economics degree, and I wish that I took more art history classes.
Mm,
I took more music classes and pursued other interests that just fills my soul. I'm doing this, I'm doing that now,
mhm,
now that I'm 54, but
mhm,
kind of wish that I took advantage
mhm,
of that more when I was an undergrad. But instead, I was very focused on like as many classes that was going to help me get the job.
mhm.
And the reality is getting to a school like Mount Holyoke or Harvard or any of these phenomenal schools, you don't have to worry that I think jobs are there, you work hard, but it is about following your heart and filling your soul at an early age.
Mhm. And it's true, as we get older, we realize that life is like a kaleidoscope and rainbow,
Yes,
and we need to
yes,
understand how it all fits together. So it's not only
yes.
business, or it's not only one thing. We want to
But
learn as many.
I'll add
Mhm.
to Jessica too, why that's so important in entrepreneurship. Filling your soul with creativity, because entrepreneurship is about innovation and coming up with ideas. And it's not just risk taking and having that competency, but it's also brainstorming with your team and thinking out of the box and encouraging that. And innovation comes from being exposed to many different things. It's about being curious and having a beginner's mind.
Right, right. And In actually has a second question, which is thank you so much, Sheila. You have made many incredible, invaluable, and important decisions throughout your life and career. What is and has been most helpful to you when you are at a crossroad and in making a decision?
I go back to this mantra that I often use and been speaking about, called authentic boldness.
I'm sorry, can you mention that? Authentic boldness. Okay.
Yes. And the two things I always check for myself is, is this true to my heart? Is it really speak to me? As if I'm doing a matrix of pros and cons of a fork in a road of a decision. I really go back to my heart, because I think the rational brain, can always work on you to question a lot of things and say, oh, this isn't great, right? And sometimes you lose that confidence. It's really trusting your heart says, this speaks to me. I'm very passionate about it. And then the boldness is, does this challenge me? Is it going to help me grow? Right? And to not fear taking risk if my heart is really beating fast, to say, this is something that I think I really want to go do. I want to try and pursue. And so once you've made that decision, then you add the rationality of, how do I get there? How do I plan to get there? Versus, I think sometimes the rationality of all the barriers, you create all these arguments to pursue what's really in your heart, and then you just don't pursue it. Right. So I kind of really go with that authentic boldness and then develop a game plan.
You've shared with us so many things today. We've got a couple of minutes, and some of the highlights that I got during our 40 minutes, of course, the authentic boldness, the AB mantra of yours, being true to yourself, see if this really challenges you, go follow your heart. And you're becoming a social impact entrepreneur, that you're an entrepreneur, but at the core, you're a social impact pursuer. And then I'm going to find my chief household officer.
There you
This
go.
is a new term that we hadn't heard. And then also at TAF that you are going to unveil this Plus campaign, go nationwide, go big,
Okay.
beyond Asian Americans. So you are really a trailblazer. We can't wait to honor you on May 14th as really the trailblazer of the year and many years to come. And we support you, and we're really thrilled that you're part of our community. And thank you for being you. And thank you for joining us today and sharing with us your life story, how you started as a coconut floor sweeper to an incredible entrepreneur. So all the best. And thank you again for this wonderful time together. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. All the best. See you soon. Take
Yes,
care.
all of us.
Bye.
Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us.